Alright guys, let's do a little bike and talk about history, about Australian history and about present day Australians. Here's one thing I found about Australians, that they all say the same thing. They all say mate, they all say good day, they say too easy, and there's all these like lines they use to just reinforce the status quo, the social status quo. So when you are a foreigner and you're coming across these Australians, it all sounds very nice and chipper. Say, oh, no worries, like everything's fine. But they're just status quoing you. And what that means is, it means that they're not saying anything. They're just being completely neutral, and they're not engaging in the interaction emotionally at all. So it's like a safety thing. It's like an emotional defense. Oh shit. That would have been interesting. They're just doing like a status quo interaction with you, which when you're a traveler, it can become really tiresome, because you're just wanting to have real interactions with people, right? And learn about their culture and just have some type of emotional exchange. But the Australians are pretty notorious for it, at least in my mind they are, for just doing these status quo same line things. And they do it consistently all over the country. I've been on the West Coast, I've been in Tasmania, I've been the East Coast, up and down it, and they've all used the same lines. Which means a few things. One, it's a homogeneous culture, meaning that it's all very similar. And I think two, it means that the status quo is very strong there. And with the status quo being very strong there, it means people are very obedient to it, which leads to point 4, which is, if the status quo is strong and people are obedient to the status quo, and just in general, it means they're conformists. And if they are conformist, it means there's going to be a lack of personality, a lack of differentiation. What I mean by that is, if you go around Australia and you feel like you're meeting the same person, it's not by accident. It's because they've been conditioned and controlled to act a certain way, most specifically in a moralistically upright way. It's a very British thing. And so on some level, they're all just trying to live up to that ideal. And in so doing, there's essentially just a total lack of personality there. It's just this kind of neutral, morally upright ground. It's incredibly boring, and it doesn't allow for, you know, real emotions, real feelings, and real emotional exchange, because emotions are messy, and messy can be thought of as disorderly and causing trouble. Things that would go kind of against that British control of being morally upright and mind your manners. So, you know, right now that's present day Australia, is how it operates on some level. Of course they have crime, and you know, they had a huge, massive meth epidemic. There's homelessness there. There's some social issues. I think domestic violence is not uncommon and is pretty violent. And they can be violent too. So it's this weird mix though, because even those people, even like those people who've done math, or like those more violent people, they still are conditioned by the society. Like they'll still, even despite their pretty crazy behavior, maybe private behavior, publicly they'll still try and hit that ideal. Like if you interacted with them, they may come off as nice and charming when behind closed doors they're just total animals. So pretty interesting to just go around Australia and see it, interact with it, and then go back to the history and connect that very, very British history with the present day behavior of, essentially I'm calling it boring Australians, or obedient Australians. I think that covers a lot of what I want to hit on.